Ear. Do you reckon they named barbed wire after someone called Barbara?
It's thoughts from the cabin. What is failure? It's a concept I'm intimately acquainted with. Life is peppered with tons of little failures and garnished with galaxies of little successes. They blink into existence and then sublime into the caverns of memory. Eliciting a smile from someone you like, missing the bus, all of these minute deviations from the mean, little abrasions or buffs to the ego. Then there are the greater ripples. These are the things that you tell people about. I've had a million of those, a lot of them failures. I've stood in front of a mic in a recording studio and fucked up, wasted people's time, not done my job. I've hurt people, mostly unintentionally, but sometimes with malice and bile. I've let people down countless times and myself a whole lot more. I know what failure is because I live it a whole lot more than I'd like to. I do know, though, that failure is transitory. And I do know that every time you laugh or make someone laugh, every time someone talks about you when you're not in the room, every time you haul yourself through the day without breaking, and sometimes if you do break, that these are successes. And they're a lot more frequent than you think. So, as something of a disclaimer, the people whose work I'm going to talk about today are not failures. Saying negative things about their work is not to condemn them. It is to criticize the work and to know that if they failed now, the clock constantly resets and that they can succeed in the future because, to a greater or lesser degree, we all have that chance. This is a piece about failure, and this is a piece about not doing your job properly. But never think that this is a banishment. This is simply an opinion. And you know what they say about opinions and arseholes. When the designer of Botanists handed me a copy of the game at Essen, he guided my future plays. You must try the game this way and this way, he told me. I really only play tested it at 2, he told me. He was insistent, and it was only after I played the game that I understood his insistence, the insurance he'd taken out against future criticism. He was nervous, but this wasn't the nerves of someone who hopes you'll like what they've done. This was the nerves of someone who knows you won't. It was the nerves of someone who was telling me, through their insistence, that this doesn't work. That I've tried to make it work, but time has caught up with me, and this is what I can give you now. And it doesn't work. His agitated urging was a request from me to understand how he felt about the game, to give consideration to the work he'd done, to be nice. I can't stand nice. Now, this requires some unpacking. When I say I can't stand nice, I mean in certain contexts. I can't stand nice if it reinforces negative behaviours, and Twitter is repeatedly guilty of this. A person acts in a way that is petulant or entitled, and if they frame it in the correct way in 280 characters, flocks of people, in attempting to be nice, will reinforce that behaviour. They will tell them that their feelings are their own. They will tell them that their preferences are not a punchline. They will encourage them to steep in their petulance, to revel in their entitlement, and this will bleed into their real lives. Nice is not always nice, and nasty is sometimes necessary. Saying that, in most cases of normal social interaction, nice is preferable. Don't tell an acquaintance that they're a bellend, as that's likely to offend them. There is very little place for nice in art, though. There is place for ebullience and joy, and frustration and anger. But nice is weak tea, or chips without vinegar. Almost bloody pointless. I can't be nice about Botanists, because to be nice is to do disservice to the designer as a creator. His game didn't work. It felt like the first or second iteration of a prototype. It felt under-rehearsed and unfinished. I felt propelled by the game to do things that were no fun, just to get the game done. The board changed so much, so quickly, that any plans that were formulated evaporated before you could evaluate their viability. For all the pretty colours and beautiful art, the game didn't work as a game. And it's not a painting. so it failed. Game design is like building an engine. It's about taking different components and making them function, having some components slide away to make room for others before they slide back into place and fulfill their roles. Game design is engineering as much as it's creativity. It is iteration. It is trial and success followed by its more famous cousin, trial and error. And, like engineering, the machine needs to work because no matter how much candy cherry spray paint you cover it in, if the engine doesn't function, the car won't get off the forecourt. Iteration in game design is playtesting. It is the wind tunnel and the test track. It is letting the thing go and seeing if it hums before you let it on the road. And you can tell very quickly if a game hasn't been playtested enough, because it won't work. Do not play Orleans Stories because it doesn't work. The camshafts are in all wrong and the pistons are upside down. It's gorgeous though, and the components are wonderful, but the guts are rotten. It feels like someone has wrapped a dog turd in golden flaky pastry just to see the expression on your face when you bite into it. Firstly, there are no stories. There is king, blah and city bullshit, but there's no story here. The writing is full of anachronisms and it's just rules text with a suit on and a spray of Izzy Miyake. Then there is the game itself. Botanists is a perfectly tuned 4-stroke in comparison. Not only are the turns like walking through a paddling pool of slowly setting marshmallows, but the game breaks down halfway through. We had to fudge rules and then outright cheat just to get the game to function. And then it lasted for 5 hours. I do not consider it unreasonable from me to assert that they barely playtested this aberration before they vomited it into a box, shrink-wrapped it and flogged it at Essen. So much was wrong with this game. Points were offered throughout the game, but halfway through we'd exhausted ways of scoring them. Resources were frustratingly scarce and their scarcity slowed the game down to a terminal crawl. We just wanted the bloody thing to end, and it wouldn't. Ever. In fact, I think I'm still playing it now. This game was a total and complete failure. This is the thing about failure though. It ages as well as success. And that is appallingly. It's like that wine you loved when you drank it looking at the crystal blue sea from the shore of a Greek island. So you bought 6 bottles of it only to find that it was cat's piss when you got home. Some failures teach, some scar. But they fade in the end. I can't wait for Rainer Stockhausen's next game because I've loved his games in the past. And I have a great sympathy for failure because I could write a book on mine. And, as Samuel Beckett once wrote, I write in French because it makes me look cleverer. Thank you for listening, and you can support this show by going to patreon.com/5G4D.